T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Sorry, folks. Right now on Truth Today, we're going to be discussing the Trojan horse of the First Amendment, how the First Amendment is being abused by the Marxists and the Muslims to destroy Western society, our civilization. We're also going to be discussing J.D. Vance showing his true colors, Shariah in small towns all across this nation, like in Texas. We'll show you how the imposition is continuing, and also the latest on Iran. That and much more right now on Truth Today. All right, folks, thank you so much. My apologies there about the audio. Sometimes I forget to click the audio, so my apologies. Hopefully that you guys got the second part of it. I redid the intro again there. So thank you guys for your patience there. This is sometimes when I'm running the show, you have these technical issues. Great to be with you guys in studio today live. It is 12:26 now Eastern time. Thank you for joining us here on Truth Today from all over the country. We're so grateful that you guys are with us, and I got a lot to cover today on the show. We'll get to that. A lot of different things we're going to hit on, a lot of different updates. If you have questions, as always, please put them in the comments. I will do my best to get to them. As well, I have also an announcement for Thursday night show. We'll share that with you just in a little bit. As always, want to encourage you, make sure you guys get a chance to visit our website, tilministry.com, tilministry.com. For folks in Houston, Texas area, if you're in the Houston, Texas area, this coming weekend, I will be in Sugar Land, speaking at Sugar Land Bible Church, Sunday morning and Sunday night. So 2 times Sunday morning and then Sunday night. So it'll be a special presentation Sunday night as well. So they've never had a Sunday night presentation before, so they're kind of making an exception for me. But it'll be great to have you guys if you're in the area. Also, rumble.com. Remember again, as we're live streaming to Facebook and YouTube, soon to be X, rumble.com/SharamHadian, rumble.com/SharamHadian. Please click that red button on there if you're on our Rumble channel that says join. That subscribes you to our channel. And also please like and share. We would greatly appreciate that. That helps us to get that content out. Yes, Georgina, you can hear the presentation on Sugarland. They'll be live streaming their main service. I'm not sure if they live stream their Sunday morning. So Sunday morning, I'm going to be speaking at their Bible study hour on the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of this Jew hatred that is continuing to just exponentially increase. I'll be speaking on that. And then during the main service, I'll be talking about Iran, Persia, and Bible prophecy. And then Sunday night, I'm going to be doing an update on the battle for America, the Islamic takeover of America, Texas. I'll be doing an update on that, particularly with what's going on in Texas, but how that affects the rest of the country. So yes, I've been told that those are going to be live streamed. You will should be able to go to Sugarland Bible Church, and then watch it there. Or I think they have it on I think they have a YouTube channel, but it should be on the website. So, all right. That, yeah, and I can check on that, and I'll get back to you guys on Thursday, try to confirm where exactly they're going to be. All right, let's get into this today because we got a lot to cover. And again, if you guys have questions, look, this is something today that I've been talking about for a long time, for a long time. I've been trying to bring about this topic everywhere that I speak, everywhere that I go. This idea of, this incredible idea of our First Amendment, this incredible idea that America was founded upon the First Amendment as the bedrock, as the hallmark of all other rights that have been given to us by God. So first of all, we must remember that these are God-given rights, that the amendments are there not to say this is, the only rights you have from God, but they're there as these are rights that cannot be encroached upon. These are rights that cannot be violated. They're inviolable. So the idea of freedom of religion as one of the 5 pillars of the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, and freedom of grievances or addressing grievances, and freedom of the press, these are hallmark, these are bedrock concepts within any free society. Recognizing, of course, again, this is where we tend to lose things, recognizing that these rights come from the one true God. I've been arguing for years that, particularly again, as a former Muslim coming from Iran, coming from Islam, that Islam and these ideologies, they are abusing, they are using our First Amendment against us. They are using these rights against us. They hide behind these rights. And so today's show, we're going to be talking about the First Amendment Trojan horse, how Islam and Marxists abuse our freedoms. And this is something that is, again, it's a tough conversation because the majority of people want to believe that, look, in our country, in America, in this nation, or in most Western nations, if you believe in a religion or don't believe in a religion, that's your freedom, right? You can believe in something, you can believe in nothing. Now, obviously, as a Christian, as a Christ follower, it is our responsibility to share the good news, to tell people that indeed there is a true God, indeed that God loves us, and that he loves us so much that he gave us his only begotten son, and that Christ himself came, Jesus came to this earth in the flesh, as God in the flesh, lived that life of no sin, of perfect obedience to the Father, fulfilled all aspects of the requirements of the law, which is what we're teaching on right now in our Sunday services about the covenants and the Mosaic covenant particularly. We just went through all the moral law, the 10 commandments. And then he paid the ultimate price, was crucified, buried, raised from the dead, which is the ultimate victory, ascended and is coming back. So as we give this good news, we give people the choice. But we don't believe as Christians that government can mandate, can force people to convert, that by the force of government that you can force somebody to convert. That's not Christ-like. That's not what the Bible believes in. That's not the idea of free will, because God gives us the choice to choose him willingly, freely. When you have ideologies that come forth that do not hold to those values, and yet we are giving them protection under the First Amendment because they claim to be a religion. So part of my goal for this show today is, by the end of this show, my prayer is that every single one of us is committed to understanding that we have to change the conversation. The biggest hole that Western societies have dug for themselves, particularly when it comes to the Islamic takeover, is that they have labeled Islam as a religion. And once they've labeled Islam as a religion, then they give it protection under the First Amendment. And we'll talk about specifics of how Islam violates the First Amendment. I have a DVD on our website that is called Islam's Assault on the U.S. Constitution, on the Constitution. And I go through, I think, 10 or 12 different areas of how Islam and its law violates our Constitution, our Declaration, the elements of the Bill of Rights, other aspects of natural law, including the First Amendment. But the argument continues to be that you can't touch Islam, you can't criticize Islam, you can't say anything bad about it because of the fact that it's a religion. And this is where our long-term strategy has to change. People ask me all the time, well, what can we do? Well, it starts with our language. It starts with not giving way to false language. So, for example, we do not celebrate pride because the rainbow belongs to God. It's his covenant. It's his covenant reminder. So we change our language. We change the way that we discuss things and talk things because we don't give in to a lie or deception. That's why I refuse to, quote, use pronouns for people that are claiming to be trans, including in my own family, where not my personal family, but with my brother, having a child that identifies as trans. So unfortunately, and we've lost relationship over this, but we won't compromise because I'm not going to go along with a deception or a delusion of somebody who thinks that they're another sex. That's not loving, but they claim it's loving, and they claim that I'm unloving. That's fine. That's their opinion. But I'm going to go with the Word of God. I'm going to stand with what is truth and reality. That's why I will say, yes, I'm a biblical Zionist. You can call me names all you want. You can say, oh, you filthy Zionists, and you deceive Zionists, and you have brain rot, whatever names you want to call me. But I rebuke those in Jesus' name because I'm a biblical Zionist. Because the Bible uses the term Zion as God's holy abode, as God's dwelling place, as where he's returning to. Zion is the promise that God is restoring the nation in the last days, which he has, as far as physically, not spiritually yet. So we have to be accurate with terms, and the term that we're going to start using is Islam is not a religion. It is a governmental political system. And by the way, it's not just Islam, right? Both sides of the red and green axis, because there are now those in this nation, right, that are running as avowed socialist, Marxist, communist. And you saw it with the firebombing of the building in New York, of the federal building in New York, by these radicals. That he tried to set the outside of the building on fire. This is not protected First Amendment speech. If you avow that you are a socialist, communist, Marxist, and you want to tear down the system and create revolution, no, that is treason and sedition and insurrection. The idea that you are wanting to overthrow the government and create, quote, violent revolution. It's not a protected First Amendment right. It's not political free speech when you're actually carrying out a takeover. And in the same way, when we label Islam as a religion, we dig ourselves the biggest hole that is impossible to get out of, because now we give them cover. We give them cover. And they use that cover and they abuse that cover. So here's a really good article. I want to go over this by Daniel Greenfield in Jihad Watch, if you get a chance to go and read it. It says the problem with using the First Amendment in defense of Islam is that its goal is to violate the First Amendment. That's exactly right. This is exactly what I've been saying for 2 decades now. That where they will go into the streets, take over the streets, demand accommodation for their ideology, once they have control, once they get to that upper house, they will not honor those demands. I just watched a video the other day of a woman testifying at the Dearborn, Michigan City Council, where she said that she has on multiple occasions, even trying to get a lawyer, putting the city of Dearborn on notice. Why are you using public funds, she said, to put forth banners celebrating Ramadan within the city? Public money to put up banners and signs celebrating Ramadan that is specifically for Muslims, but you will not put up banners celebrating Easter or Passover. How is that not a establishment of religion in the sense of the preferential treatment? Because supposedly we've been told that the way that you interpret the First Amendment, which of course I don't agree with, is that you can't establish any religion. You can't give preferential treatment to any religion. But when they take over, that's exactly what they do. In Hamtramck, Michigan, when the Muslims banned pride events and pride flags, once they took over the entire city council and the mayor's office, and they have control over the city, even though some LGBTQ whatever group sued them, they lost in court. The courts are defending the Muslims, but they won't give that treatment to Christians, Jews, and any other belief system. So it's a double standard. It's not, quote, equal protection under the law. And so the article, and I just want to read a little bit of it here, goes on to say this. Quote, to protect Islamic rights, therefore, means depriving non-Muslims of freedom of religion. White Rose Magazine recently asked me to explore the subject of the legal status of Islam, and I dove into the article, Can We Ban Islam? The article looks at the status of religion and the parameters of what kind of illegal activities operating under the color of religion that the government can take action against. He goes on to say the The first problem with using the First Amendment in defense of Islam is that its goal is to violate the First Amendment. Islam's widely stated goal is to become a state religion around the world and in America as well. Now, if you know my presentations, like our new one, Battle for America, right? We go through it and I read the words of the Muslim Brotherhood. I go and read the words of these Islamic organizations. And when they say that our goal is not only to sabotage your miserable house, meaning our country, but they say and our goal is to make Allah's religion victorious over all other religions. So if they get their way where Islam becomes in control and becomes the state, that's the argument, right? So what you have to change, what we have to change our argument when we're talking to anybody about this is, number one, on the red side, if somebody says, I love socialism, Marxism, communism, okay, you can have your opinion. But the moment you're implementing it, that is not protected under the First Amendment. It is not political activity that is protected. It is now an action of treason, of sedition, because you are overtly calling for another form of government and the overthrow of our government. And then someone would argue, well, can't they politically work to do that? Well, they can do it if we allow them to do it. They can do it as long as we allow them, as long as we say, oh, yes, they can have their ability to change the system. But if we are a constitutional republic, we are to protect that republic at all costs. And therefore, we should be able to label sedition. Well, again, on the green side of the axis, Islam comes along, and 1,400 years has demonstrated that when they take over countries and areas, that then they subjugate people to Islamic law. They set up governance, like in my birth country of Iran, and Islam becomes the government. Sharia becomes the government, the governmental laws, the constitution. So therefore, we have to be able to tell everybody, Islam is not a religion. Islam is not a religion. Islam is not a religion. It is a political, governmental, totalitarian system. It is a political, governmental, totalitarian system, meaning every area of government, legal, civil, criminal, financial statutes governing a nation is under Sharia. And here's the second point, right? If you've missed this in my presentations or in these talks, is that within Islam, there is no separation of the mosque and the state. So the religion, quote, religion becomes the state. When that happens, there is no First Amendment, because throughout 1,400 years, what have they shown? When they take over, they will then force you to convert. I just told you, we don't want to force people to convert to Christianity. We don't want the government to force people to become Christians. But if Islam takes over, they will use the government that they have taken over to begin to force people. First, they'll do what they're doing in places like Michigan or New York or Minnesota, even to some extent Texas, where they'll force you out. They'll push you out of those areas because you're not welcome. Christianity is not, or open expression of Christianity is not welcome. And in fact, they become hostile to it. They start arresting people like they have in Dearborn years ago, where Christians went outside the Arab festival in Dearborn and got arrested by the police for preaching the gospel because the Muslims attacked the Christians. And instead of the Muslims being arrested, the Christians were being arrested for inciting violence for simply sharing the gospel, giving gospel tracts out. So that happened 10 plus at least years ago. So this has been going on. So first, you're not welcome. First, those ideologies are not welcome. Then they'll get to the point where they're outlawed, like what we see in the UK, where under the guise of, under the banner of secularism, they still give passes for Islam to do whatever they want, but then they crack down on Christians and Jews and others. Okay, let me go back to this article really quick. Sharia has been making steady advances in Africa and parts of Asia. Majorities of Muslims in the UK have said that they want Sharia law, and leading British figures such as the Archbishop of Canterbury have supported the introduction of Islamic law into the British legal system. What fools these people are. Domestic advocates for Sharia are pushing for the normalization of Sharia law in the United States as well. This would, in fact, turn Islam into an established religion in the United States, itself a violation of the First Amendment. Furthermore, Islam abridges the remaining portions of the First Amendment, which protect freedom of speech in the press. Islam rejects both of these. To protect, quote, Islamic rights, therefore, means depriving non-Muslims of freedom of religion, both Muslims and non-Muslims the freedom of speech and the press. Now, there's more if you go to his article in Rose Magazine, which is, can we ban Islam? So this has been my argument right now with people that say, let's ban Sharia in America. And I have to tell them, if you're banning Sharia in America, you're banning Islam in America. You can't ban Sharia without banning Islam. You can, I guess you can ban certain portions of Sharia, but you can't say we're going to ban all of Sharia or claim that you're banning all of Sharia and then not say we're banning Islam, because there's no separation again, right? There's zero separation between Sharia and Islam. They are the same. So it's a very, very, very interesting article about the concept of separation, proper separation, and how Islam cannot be protected. Now, I've made the argument that if I could make one argument legally of why Islam could not be protected under the First Amendment and why it's a Trojan horse. Again, if you're joining us late, right? First Amendment Trojan horse, how Islam and these Marxists are now using our freedoms against us. They're abusing these freedoms. The number one argument, again, I've made, and you've heard me say this probably before, is that Islam teaches apostasy. Islam teaches apostasy. Not only teaches, Islam codifies apostasy laws, and the punishment for those apostasy laws is death. Meaning, if you leave Islam and they have the ability to legally hold you accountable, then the punishment is a death sentence. And therefore, and this is exactly what is going on in Iran, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in parts of Arabia, the Arab world, where particularly in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran, and then now in Syria as well, where the charge of apostasy is a death sentence. They actually have it in penal code where you are charged with a capital offense if you apostatize, if you leave Islam, because it's the ultimate slander. It's the ultimate betrayal of their so-called prophet. So I've always made the argument, if Islam were to have governmental status, okay, so again, they hide behind, right, here's the Trojan horse. We come in, we're just a religion. We're like any other religion. We can coexist. They go based on the early verses of the Quran. They claim that there's no compulsion in religion, Surah chapter 2 in the Quran. We can just come in and coexist together, and therefore we're good until they get the upper hand. When they get the upper hand, now the 9th chapter of the Quran, the final chapter, it's not the final chapter, but it's the last chapter according to Muhammad that was given to him. That kicks in where now there is compulsion. Now you got to fight the people of the book until they convert to Islam. So, and that's Jews and Christians particularly, and any other religious minorities. So if you're not free to leave a, quote, religion without penalty of death, then you cannot be protected as a freedom of religion category, because there is no freedom of religion if you're not free to leave that religion. Why is Christianity a religion? It's a faith. We know it's faith. It's relationship with Christ. But why is it technically a religion? Because you are free to leave it at any time. You are free to apostatize at any time, and nobody will hunt you down and try to kill you. Now, obviously, there's consequences to your life, but no one is going to lead an army as Muhammad did and go and or as Muhammad's successors did, and go and kill those who have left this ideology. That was, by the way, called the Ridda Wars. Ridda is the term in Islam for apostasy. So if you can't leave without punishment of death, there's no freedom of religion. But it's a Trojan horse. They hide behind it. So this is so important to understand. This is why the political elite, the political powers to be on both sides, both the left and the right, both Democrat and Republican, they fall for this trap because they continue to give cover to Islam. They continue to say, oh, we can't do anything about this. We're going to go after, the radicals, but Islam is peaceful, tolerant, blah, 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 because they don't understand that Islam is not a religion. It is again, governmental, political, totalitarian ideology. Totalitarian meaning that it's affecting every area of life, that their law, Sharia, controls every area of your life. There is no area that is not included in Sharia. Georgina, let me get to your question here about evangelism of Muslims. That's a very good question. But let me get to your second question. You said, if Islam and Sharia are one and the same, so when they are at the lower house, Dar al-Harb, yes, that means has Sharia. That means the Dar al-Harb has Sharia, but hidden, yes. Okay, so when do they go to the upper house and dominate? So that's the question, right? The question is, when does that transition happen? That transition happens based on many, many reasons within the Islamic movement and community, where they determine that they have enough power, enough control, enough support from others like the left to get to that upper house. Yes, elements of Sharia are hidden, certainly from the non-Muslims, meaning that one of the arguments that they make when they're in that lower house is they'll argue to non-Muslims, we do not want to impose Sharia on you. Sharia is just for Muslims. And they'll argue and say, well, just like, Christians follow ecclesiastical laws, we follow Sharia. But therein lies the lie. That's the deception. Because no, once they get to the upper house, Sharia now is imposed on everybody. It's not just for the Muslims, it now applies to the non-Muslims. So yes, in the lower house, they can hide behind the fact that, oh, Sharia is just for devout Muslims and it's only religious components. No, it's not. Again, it's totalitarian. Yes, there are elements of Sharia that deal with prayer and their, quote, worship, even though they don't have any worship. They just recite these verses as I had to as a young child. But Sharia then moves on to, from there, to, again, how you dress, how you eat, how you live, how you have sexual relations, how you deal with your finances, how you deal with your wife, how many wives can you have, what's the age of marriage, then it goes on to the civil statutes, criminal statutes, financial statutes, governmental statutes. All of those things are, quote, under the banner of Sharia, because remember, the term means that it is the path or the way. So when we say it's a law, it's a legal code, it's a legal system, and it's incompatible with the United States. So they hide behind that lower house. They lie in that lower house. Then when they get to the upper house, then yes, they began to. That's why when you see Muslims who are interviewed in areas where they have enclaves, those Muslims will say, if we had a choice between the U.S. Constitution and Sharia, we pick Sharia. We want Sharia to dominate. Of course, they have to say that because now they're in an area that is being governed by internally within the Muslim community. I've always told people the Muslim leadership, when they transition from lower house to upper house, the first thing they have to do is notify that Muslims within their internal community, hey, we've transitioned. We are now in this place of upper house. You need to abide by Sharia. You need to, understand that that's what we're under. Let me look at another question. Wouldn't a stronger argument be to cite that they are a criminal entity, what they call Islamic laws? Early criminal? Well, not quite, Sue, because again, you would argue that if a Muslim is going to go pray 5 times a day, that's not necessarily criminal. Spiritually, it's vile because they're worshiping a false god. But criminally, you can't make that argument for what is internal. If they do things internally that then are criminal, like for example, if a Muslim marries a child as a bride, a Muslim man, that's already criminal. That already is in our laws. We don't need to make new laws to enforce the fact that that is pedophilia. If they do child genital mutilation on young girls, in most states that's already illegal. That it should be illegal in every state, but it's not. If they beat their wives, because the Quran allows them to strike their wives in certain areas of their bodies if their wives are being, quote, disobedient, that's already criminal. And I've shared with many people before, I've arrested Muslims when I was in Washington State on charges of assault in domestic violence situations when they tried to justify their behavior under in their culture, that in their culture it's permissible to be able to discipline their wives by striking them. So there are already statutes that are criminal, but you can't make the argument that all of Sharia is criminal because they will run to some judge, some these advocate judges, and they will get a ruling and it will be struck down. Even if a legislature in this country, if a governor, if a city council said, we're banning all of Sharia in this city, we're going to ban all of it, it would get struck down. So again, I am a realist. I'm not going to be a false optimist, because you have to be a realist in our current environment. If we were in the United States 200 years ago, then yes, we would make that argument. If we're in certain states where their state constitutions are stronger, like in Tennessee, yes, we could technically say we can ban false ideology, particularly Islam, or stop them from building mosques or getting public funding, which, by the way, they are in Tennessee under our lukewarm governor and some of our legislature. They opened vouchers, and now those vouchers are being used to fund Islamic schools here in Tennessee. What a horrible, horrible outcome, probably that they didn't think about. But the moment you open government money and you say we're going to use government money to fund private schools, particularly religious schools, well, now you got to give it to everybody. We give it to everybody, but when they get in control, they don't give it to everybody. When they get in control, they don't open the door for everybody. No, then they further isolate themselves and only protect their rights and begin to discriminate against other rights. So I don't think, Sue, that you can make the argument that all of it is criminal. It's demonic, it's evil, but from a legal standpoint, if you are going to make a criminal aspect of it, there are tons of aspects of Islamic law, again, like killing apostates, honor killings that are criminal. But you got to make sure it holds up in court. You got to make sure it holds up under the scrutiny of these, activist judges today. And that's why I propose that the way to go after Islam and the way to go after Sharia is to label it a theocratic system. If you come and say, we want to ban all public accommodation of Sharia, don't at first go after the private, what they do privately in their homes or whatever. Again, unless it's already criminal. So if a Muslim beats their wife inside their house, that's already illegal. That's already against the law. We just have to enforce it. If a Muslim tries to have more than one wife, that's already illegal. If a Muslim tries to marry a child, that's already illegal. But where we're failing is when we have public accommodation. So when a city decides to broadcast the Islamic call of prayer on loudspeakers and they don't allow that privilege to any other religious group, there should be lawsuits right and left every single day until that is reversed. But there's nothing. Nobody challenges it. Nobody challenged Minneapolis. Nobody challenged New York. Nobody challenged it in Paterson, New Jersey. Nobody has challenged it in Texas. They don't, well, I shouldn't say nobody in Texas, but they're not challenging it legally. Hamtramck and Dearborn Heights and Minneapolis and St. Cloud, Minnesota, and in obviously in New York City. And so they're not challenging it, and they're getting away with it. So go after public accommodation of Shariah, and then identify Shariah as a theocratic political governmental system, where you identify what's a theocracy. A theocracy is when you try to make a religion become the state, which, by the way, as Christians, we shouldn't support until Jesus comes back. When Jesus comes back and rules as King of Kings and Lord of Lords, yes, he's going to set up a theocracy on the planet. It's his kingdom. Until that time, we don't support theocracies, even if they claim to be Christian. That's why I don't support Christian nationalism to its actual definition. Not Christian nationalism as in, I'm a Christian, I care for my nation, and I'm praying for my nation and the welfare of my nation. That's just being a biblical Christian. But Christian nationalism, as we see it now on many on the right, are those who want to actually get rid of our Constitution and create a constitution under Christian law. A theocracy. That's no different than if the Muslims are trying to do it. And it doesn't work, because it's then very scary, because you got to look at who's going to be running that law, who's going to be defining that law, who's going to be defining the interpretation of that law. Should we go and start stoning people who don't keep the Sabbath on a Saturday? Should we go and start stoning homosexuals like the Muslims do? So this is the slippery slope. Go after public accommodation. Go after the fact that Islam is not a religion under the First Amendment. It can't be. Make the argument that Islam cannot be a religion. Islam cannot be protected as a religion. Islam violates the First Amendment. Keep making that argument. And so, so anyway, this is really, really important. Pukiel, I'm just reading your comment. Under the Communist Control Act of 1954, Mamdani must be removed from office. Yeah, there you go. Right. So we already have laws. That's a great point, Pookie. We already have laws, right, in dealing with communism. We had the gumption, we had the guts years ago to say that if you are trying to violate our Judeo-Christian ethos that we have in this nation, the morality that this nation was founded upon, and particularly under communism, you are an enemy of this country. You need to be kicked out. You need to be removed, whether in this case, someone who's in office or someone who's here and naturalized or living here. Because you're a traitor. You've committed sedition and treason. And so exactly right. Mamdani must be removed from office and sent back to where he was born in Uganda. Exactly, with his Indian parents. They should all be kicked out. Rashida Tlaib should be kicked out. Ilhan Omar should be kicked out. This should all be kicked out. Because now this red and green and this DSA takeover is very much true. Sue, yes, the local, again, I've made the argument that the battle starts locally. So going to your local city council, going to your city council and demanding that they do not issue zoning permits, making it difficult for them to build these type of projects like they're doing in Texas with Epic and others that we're going to highlight this coming weekend when I'm in Houston. Putting them on notice. putting them on notice now, absolutely. You can't wait till it becomes a federal issue. We got to fight the battle locally because that's where it is. But I'm just saying that you can go locally and demand that the local city council pass the American laws for American courts. By the way, I'm going to try to give you an update. I just read the bill that Florida just signed into law by Governor DeSantis and just a couple of weeks ago. I'm reading to the language of it where they actually in that bill mention that you can't use Shariah in the courts. Now, they didn't say in all aspects. They went because they had already passed a bill called ALAC, American Laws for American Courts, where it said you can't have foreign law in your courts. Idaho just passed that. Again, I've said this before. I had the privilege of being up there in January of this year and speaking to the many members of the legislature there, and they were able to pass American laws for American courts. So that was one step in the right direction. But what Florida just did was they strengthened their ALAC by specifically mentioning religious law. So ALAC only says foreign law. This bill legislatively mentions religious law and says, as an example, Shariah. So that was bold. And we're going to keep an eye on whether, I'm sure CAIR is sued. In fact, I'm pretty sure that CAIR has already sued DeSantis and Florida over this, CAIR being the Muslim Brotherhood CAIR. And we're going to keep an eye on this and see where this goes. But I think that was pretty gutsy on Florida's part to go forward and put that type of language in there. But look at what's happening in Tampa. Look at what's happening in parts of Florida where the Muslims are taking over some of these areas locally because of their influence in the city council. The Tampa mayor, who is a lesbian, is supporting the Muslims in Tampa. Go look it up. And so, this is where states good at the state level, but fight it at the local level. Sue, I agree with you. Go to the local city councils. So we're working on, you can use this ALAC kind of bill locally. Go to your city council and say, there should not be in our district courts, there should not be any allowance for any type of foreign law or religious law in the sense of justifying that which then would come against our constitutional protections, which would not then, because the risk is people say, oh, well, wouldn't that then kind of close the door for Christianity? No, because again, our Constitution was built upon the natural law, the laws of nature, nature's God. Our Declaration, of course, says that. They understood the Bible as our foundation. So it shouldn't affect that. We're talking about any foreign or religious law. Any foreign or religious law that is antithetical, that is specifically against our protected rights under the Declaration, Constitution, Bill of Rights. Any idea why the Trump administration hasn't moved quickly on deporting anti-American traitors in government positions? I have no idea other than they think they're going to probably lose in court because of all these advocate judges and all these enjoinments that they've brought forth, these national injunctions that a district judge issuing a national injunction. This is ludicrous. But until Congress does something, until the Supreme Court itself, which has spoken against this, some of the members of the Supreme Court, but the Congress has got to act. Congress has the authority to rein back the power of the judicial, which it never was supposed to have this much power. It was never supposed to be the final arbitrator of our republic. And so, and politically, you got to believe what you're going to sell. So not only deport those that are here illegally, you got to deport, as you said, as Pookie said, someone, like again, if you look at, let's get to some of our articles. If you look at, where's that article that I had? Another DSA, Where is that one? Yeah, here's another one. All-out war erupts in Democrat Party as yet another DSA, that's the Democrat Socialists of America candidate in Michigan, takes on sitting House progressive. Politics is about redistribution of resources. So these guys are running. Michigan DSAer Donovan McKinney is working hard to unseat progressive Congressman Shariah in the Detroit area. Tanadar denounced DSA over the October 7th atrocity, and now the communists and Muslims want him gone and replaced with a loyalist. Why? Because he supported Israel. So that is becoming a litmus test within the Democrat Party on the left, and it is becoming a litmus test on the right. Some of you asked me why I talked about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance showing his true colors. Well, the reason J.D. Vance is showing his true colors, the reason I never trusted J.D. Vance, the reason that I think J.D. Vance is another turncoat like Mike Pence, isn't it amazing how they sabotaged Trump through the vice president's office? I think it's the second time it's happening again. J.D. Vance, number one, is a Catholic. J.D. Vance has been taught replacement theology. So he does not support the concept of the right of Israel to exist theologically, from what he's being taught. J.D. Vance is right now, I think, testing the political winds. He went on Joe Rogan's show and bashed Israel and spewed conspiracies about how Israel is controlling our government. J.D. Vance, his either his chief of staff or his legislative affairs lead was Bucky Carlson, Tucker Carlson's son. Until, look, I think there's a bit of a rift in the White House in regards to this, because there's going to be those in the White House that are supportive of Israel, supportive of their right to exist. And there's those who are not, who are being led by these groypers now that were initially founded by the likes of a Nick Fuentes. So this is happening again, both on the political left and on the political right, where Israel is becoming the litmus test. The Jews are becoming the litmus test. If you support Israel, if you support the right of existence, if you support the Jewish people, that becomes a litmus test. And now we got to go after you. And it's happening again on the left, and it's happening on the right. The left are eating their own. The right is eating their own, so to speak. And these folks are full out communists. Look at this picture. So one of the main people, this guy, okay, Hassan Piker is one of the main DSAers. He's very influential in this radical revolutionary movement. He just gave a speech to college Democrats. Look what he was wearing. Muslim DSAer Hassan Piker rants to college Dems decked out in a Mao-style suit. Quote, "No more to Democrats who compromise." So this is where they are going. Now, this guy, most of you may not know this guy. This guy is he's a Twitch streamer on Twitch, which is a social media platform, app thing, splitting the Democrat Party in two while honoring Mao Zedong with his suit. Mao, of course, killed tens of millions. The speech and suit set social media ablaze. Muslim DSAer Hassan Piker was sandblasted for wearing a Mao-style suit in his rant to the college Democrats of America, giving fawning homage to the murderous communist dictator Mao Zedong, who killed tens of millions of people. And if you go to this article, you can, on Rare Foundation, you can see it there. So they're going in this direction. So again, they use this to hide behind the first, or they're using the First Amendment to hide behind what they are considering free speech. This is not free speech. This is a call for sedition. This is a call for treason and overthrowing insurrection. This is truly insurrection. This is the call for the overthrow of the government. And we treat it as First Amendment speech, and it is not. It is not. Again, if you say, I feel violent, you can argue, that's protected speech. But if you say, I feel violent and I'm going to kill this person tomorrow. That is now giving motivation. You're now giving an actual intent to kill. And then if you say, and here's how I'm going to carry it out, here's the blueprint for how we're going to kill this person. Now you have motive, you have intent, and you have actual actionable plan. You have an actionable plan to carry it out. It's no longer your free speech. It is now a crime. So if the Muslims are telling you we're going to take you over, that should be criminal. And they should be charged and kicked out. If the Maoists, if the Marxists are telling you we're going to take you over and here's how we're doing it, here's the mechanism, we're taking over first the Democrat Party, and then we're going to take over these cities, and then we're going to have no police, and we're going to have anti-ICE zones, and we're going to be sanctuary cities, and we're going to give you free this and free that, as Mamdani is. Now you are enemies of this nation, and you should be treated as such. But I don't know, folks, if we have the guts to do that. And I'm just looking at, so I think that going back to J.D. Vance, I think this is a really good article where J.D. Vance opts to appease dangerous anti-Israel conspiracies. This is on Harbinger.com. Really good article on this shift based upon his ideology as a replacement theology Catholic, but also based upon where he's trying to gauge the political wins. He's doing this right now. And he's hedging his bets that the shift is happening politically in the right towards a Jew-hating, anti-Israel, Israel conspiracy. Israel runs the world. Israel, is all the problems in the world, not the Muslims, not Islam. So again, how many times have I said? They go hard on Israel, they go soft on Islam. The moment you turn foul and vicious against Israel, you go soft on Islam. And I've seen it again and again and again. Let me get to a few other, yes, and thank you, Pookie. Then you have Peter Thiel's, you have Vance's connections to Peter Thiel. So could it be that a lot of this technocratic movement with Trump, a lot of this push towards technocracy, AI, data centers, the stable coin, all of this stuff that's happening with Trump, could it be that's actually coming from Vance? We don't know. We don't know how much Vance is pushing this internally. I'm not letting Trump off the hook. I'm just saying, all right, here's some other headlines. Elizabeth Warren endorses Abdul al-Sayed in Michigan. So here's the left again, the foolish, useful idiots left supporting the Muslims until the Muslims take over. Abdul Sayed is a Muslim Brotherhood tied operative in Michigan. He ran for governor. Thank God he lost. Now he's running for U.S. Senate. His father is a senior member of the Muslim Brotherhood. We can connect this guy all day long to the Muslim Brotherhood and the seditious group. And yet Pocahontas endorsed her. Here's the headline: Shariah in small town Texas. Walmart goes full submission in Murphy, Texas. This is in Murphy, Texas, where the Walmart there has a Murphy, Texas Walmart now features an entire wall of Sharia hijabs right in the heart of cowboy country. And Islamic Street, as Islamic street names pop up nearby, corporate America is flooding the country with prayer rugs, Allah wall art, and full hijab displays for kids. So if you're in that area, I would go and talk to that Walmart and say, I'm not going to shop at this Walmart again because you are bringing in objects. Would they bring in swastikas? Would they bring in the keffiyeh, that Arab scarf of Hamas? By bringing in these hijabs, by bringing in these prayer rugs, you're promoting an ideology that is calling for the subjugation, overthrow of our country. So the article talks about, we covered this last week on the show in Illinois, in Patterson, where they changed Main Street names to Palestine Way. In Texas, they have named streets after Sadiq Drive, Osman Drive, Syed Drive, Al-Ma'un Drive, and now Walmart boycott has got to happen. boycott that Walmart if you're in that area. Meanwhile, here is Iran state video, post video of details of how to kill Trump. So for those who are saying, Iran's not a problem, they actually posted video. Let me see if I could just play a little bit of this here very quick. We're running out of time, but hang in there with me. Let's see. Is this the actual? Yes, this should be the video. Let me see if this will play. Let me refresh. Here we go. Watch a little bit of this. Detail. Watch the detail here. Where to kill Trump. Iran State News Agency video.
این یک گزارش معمولی نیست. با استناد به پیچیده ترین پروتکل‌های امنیتی بین 2024 تا 2026 تحرکات روتین دونالد ترامپ در آمریکا جمع آوری و رمزگشایی شده. هسته مرکزی کاروان اسکورت ترامپ لیموزین ریاست جمهوری موسوم به هیولا است که همواره با یک نسخه بدل کاملا مشابه اسکورت می شود. بلافاصله پشت سر آنها شاسی بلندهای شورلت سابربن حامل تیم حفاظت و ضد حمله قرار دارند. در عقب صف خودروهای ارتباطی کاخ سفید و شاسی بلندهای مجهز به آنتن‌های گنبدی شکل یا جمرها با مسدود کردن سیگنال‌ها خطر بمب‌های ریموتی و پهپادها را دفع می‌کنند. در نهایت کامیونت فورد F550 مشکی رنگ متعلق به تیم واکنش اضطراری پزشکی موسوم به همر. عمده‌ترین مسیر تردد این کاروان در ایالت فلوریدا و شهرستان پام بیچ رقم می‌خورد. عملیات انتقال از فرودگاه ترامپ به مارالاگو یک روتین 10 دقیقه‌ای است. کاروان از گیت ها خارج شده، وارد بولوار دونالد جی ترامپ، بولوار جنوبی سابق می شود و به سمت شرق و ساحل می راند. گلوگاه امنیتی و بصری این مسیر، پل این بولوار روی آبهای جزیره بینگهام است. پاتوق همیشگی طرفداران برای تماشای لیموزین. محلی که به نظر می رسد مکانی بسیار مناسب برای آزادگان جهان باشد. در آخر هفته ها ترامپ مسافت 5.1 مایلی تا کلوب گلف بین المللی وست پام بیچ را طی 8 تا 17 دقیقه می‌پیماید. مسیر حرکت: عبور دوباره از پل بولوار جنوبی به سمت غرب، گذر از تقاطع جاده کرک و خیابان کانگرس و ورود مستقیم به زمین گلف از طریق بولوار سامیت. اما در نیویورک عملیات متفاوت است. هنگام فرود در فرودگاه لاگواردیا در کوینز، کاروان با پشتیبانی گسترده پلیس نیویورک گشت
I'm going to stop this here just for the sake of time. It's a little bit longer, about another minute, but you guys can watch it. It's on Memory TV, if you go to Memory TV. But that is detailed. That is disturbing. That should be all over the media. And this is why Iran is an existential threat to the world, to America. Iran is supporting Islam in America. Georgina, to your question, so he's not fixated on Iraq, he's fixated on Iran, but that, yes, Islam is the big threat to the United States, but Iran is part of the supporting mechanism of that threat. So is Pakistan. So is the Arab Emirate nations, obviously Qatar. So it's all together. It's all lumped as one. They are working together ultimately. And all of it is to bring down America. But if you don't decapitate this regime in Iran, arm the Iranian people, give them the chance. And I love what you guys are all saying. Pookie, I agree with you 100%. Folks, Trump needs to back off. Let Israel finish the job. Give Israel all the tools. Give Israel the green light. Say, you guys go do whatever it takes to decapitate this regime. Look at, by the way, the Saudis ended up moving 75% of their oil export away from the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz to the Red Sea. And now look what just happened. The Houthis, which are again Iran-backed, are now blockading the Red Sea. So the same thing on the other side is that there is a small channel there that you have to go through, a choke point. And so now the Houthis are trying to stop that flow. So There's no negotiation. There's no deal making. There's nothing. You have to give the best chance for the Iranian people to get rid of this regime. And it's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. A couple other headlines. This is also a good article here by a pastor calling out this apostate, this so-called Christian Tallarico running for Texas Senate, who claiming to be a Christian, claiming to stand on Christian things. This pastor does a great job of refuting this liar, deceiver, demon that is running as a Christian. I encourage you again, harbinger.com, if you read that article, a great article there in defending that. But folks, and then you saw this latest thing where Mamdani is saying he's going to arrest Netanyahu with his visit to the United Nations. If he comes in, Trump saying, no way, you're going to arrest him. Mamdani saying if he comes outside of the areas that he's protected, we'll arrest him. And so somebody should arrest, as Pookie said, somebody should be arresting Mamdani and kicking him out of New York City. So again, folks, the bottom line is, to review, the First Amendment is being abused. The red and the green, the Muslims and the communist, socialist, Marxists hide behind freedom of speech, freedom of religion. They hide behind this. And what they are traitors and seditious and insurrectionists. They are the ones who are calling for the overthrow. They are the ones who should not be protected under the First Amendment. So please remember, change your speech. If you hear anybody say Islam is a religion, no, Islam is not a religion. Islam is a political, governmental, totalitarian system. Yes, there's a religious component, but there's no separation of mosque and state. If Islam takes over, it will become the state religion, and then there will be no freedom of religion. Bottom line, that's it. You've just explained it in 10 seconds. Islam is not a religion, cannot be protected as a religion, should never have been protected as a religion, should not have religious freedom to build their mosques, which is their according to the Muslim Brotherhood, their center operating facilities. That's their center point of their operating facilities for their takeover of any country is their mosques. Now that's a tougher one to try to stop mosques from going up, because they'll claim that that's freedom of religion. But if we label it and can define it over time as a totalitarian theocratic system, again, Sharia is a theocratic system, I think we're going to have some leeway. Pray for the president. Pray that the president will listen to wisdom from the Holy Spirit, not his false advisor, Paula White, and not his turnkey, J.D. Vance. Pray that President Trump will do what is right. And I think what is right is not just continuing some of these air attacks on Iran, not just continuing the blockades, but fully giving the green light to Israel to go in and finish the job, arm the Iranian people, support them. You will then see the defections. Again, I've said it time and time again. You will then see the defections internally. If the people that are there believe that this is it, that this regime is about to topple because there's no waffling, there's no lifelines, there's no deal, then many will defect, will side with the Iranian people. The Iranian people will come back into the streets again, be willing to put their lives on the line, and the world will rid itself of this mechanism. Now, it will not rid itself of Islam, but it will rid itself of the mechanism that right now is funding so much of the Islamic movement. By the way, the Iranian regime has a very, very strong presence within mosques in places like Michigan, Dearborn Heights, Dearborn, and also places where I'm going, like in Houston. Very, very strong Shiite Islamic regime of Iran presence in places like Houston, Texas. It is absolutely problematic and should be dealt with. But again, I hope that you will use these resources, get out there, get your voices heard. Couple of quick things. Again, remember that please pray for our primaries here. We're supporting our friend, Representative Monty Fritz, who's running for governor. This is a huge election here for us in Tennessee, a big opportunity because Marsha Blackburn is absolutely, I don't trust her. I believe she is deceptive and a snake and a political, just a political hack. Monty is the real deal in the sense of freedom and fighting for Tennessee here, stopping the globalist takeover, stopping the infiltration of Tennessee as far as these under the guise of economics, stopping data centers. There's a whole bunch of stuff that he's for, and we got to pray for that. August 6th is our primary. So please pray for Monty Fritz. We're supporting him, praying for him, and we'll be praying for all that's going on. Also, wanted to let you guys know again. Remember that if you need ivermectin, go to FreshDrugs.com. FreshDrugs.com. Our good friends here in Tennessee, their pharmacy, compound pharmacy. You can order it, pay for it, and if you're out of the state of Tennessee, put our name, Shariah Hadian, Truth and Love Ministry, as the pickup person. We'll go pick it up and we'll mail it to you in your state if you need ivermectin, because they are one of the few places that you can get ivermectin that's not from India. So again, FreshDrugs.com, you can order it, pay for it, put us as the pickup person, and then if you choose to, you can then go on our donate page and make a small donation, $10 or $15, to cover the shipping and handling and all that kind of stuff. But we will do that. And if you need it in an urgent situation overnight, by the way, I'm reading some incredible articles. I want to bring somebody on the show that can talk about this. Some incredible articles about the research that is being done now on ivermectin, fenbendazole, and mebendazole in fighting cancer. In fighting cancer, it is incredible, the research, and of course, the big pharma doesn't want you to know this. The cancer machine doesn't want you to know this because all they want is chemo, radiation, drugs. But this is incredible. So I'm going to try to bring somebody on who can give us information. But again, ivermectin isn't just for fighting, anything antiviral. Remember, it is an approved antiviral, but it's also anti-inflammatory. I'm not a doctor, but based on those I've talked to, it's anti-inflammatory. It is antiviral, and it has the potential of then disrupting these cancer cells. But you got to use it with the combination of fenbendazole and mebendazole. And these two have shown incredible effects in destroying cancer cells, and the mechanism for it to come back. So we'll get information. Also, Thursday night, I'm hoping to have a little bit more information on our freeze dried. I mentioned that in my last show. We're looking at some options for freeze dried food for building up your emergency supplies again. We used to have a good company. They went out of business or they got bought out, which was Thrive. We're looking for another one. So we'll get information. But thank you again. I'm still looking into the one that one of you guys mentioned in the last show. Again, Houston, Texas, this coming weekend, we'll be there. Okay, also, announcement. Thursday night, our friend from Israel, Aaron Levarco, is stateside. He's going to be speaking at our house church Friday, and then he's speaking in the area here in the Knoxville area. So Thursday night, I'm going to have him, Lord willing, in studio with me. We'll be doing a joint show. We'll be sitting right here at the desk with me, and we're going to be doing a show Thursday night with Aaron Levarco, giving us an update on what's going on in Israel, with Iran, all the stuff that's going on. He'll be here with us live, 8 o'clock Eastern time in studio as my guest. So please stay tuned, get the word out, share it, join us live, 8 o'clock Eastern this coming Thursday night as well. So you guys have a blessed weekend. Again, if you want to support our ministry, Remember that you can go and make a one-time donation, tillministry.com/donate. tillministry.com/donate. And so God bless you guys. We'll be there. Yes, wealth of info. Exactly. Ivermectin, say Pastor James Caddis life. Amen. Lots of people that we saw saved with the combination of ivermectin and vitamin D and zinc and quercetin and other things. But it's a key thing. And again, it's cheap. We can get it. Sorry, we can get it. Let's utilize it. Let's get it out there. So again, that's available for you guys. God bless you guys. Pastor Shaw Madian saying, have a great rest of your day. Stand for truth, stand for liberty, stand for the Lord Jesus Christ. Make him known. We will not bow down. We will not compromise. We will not bow a knee to any other. And we will begin to change the arguments by the way that we deal with truth. Speak the truth in love. Don't give in to falsehoods. And stand your ground. It will make an impact. So God bless you guys. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you Thursday night.